Greetings, friends. Welcome to Web of Life Animist Network. And I am with Sky, who is a Web of Life minister who ended up miraculously or interestingly joining with the Walk of Peace with the monks. And that's my way of talking about it because I am not an expert in any way. So Sky will probably talk about it differently. So, welcome, Sky. I'm glad to be able to talk to you.
Thank you. Enjoy being here.
So let's see. So we're at like the 25th of February, 2026 today. And the walk officially ended, what, the 14th or the 15th, something like that. So it's been
Yeah.
a little bit of time to process. And I wanted to talk with you to get your insights and perspectives before it becomes the past, right? So while it's still
hmm
up and you're still rolling it around in your body and your mind. So I'm curious, maybe we could start. I'll say that when you reached out and told me about what you wanted to do, that was the first I'd heard of this walk. So, how about the origin story of this? Like, how did you find out about it and the joining up process, or however that went? I'm curious to hear that.
I actually just came across my feed on TikTok. And when I saw it, it was just straight to my heart. I just started crying. And then every time it came across my feed over the next couple days, it had the same effect on me. I just was crying and crying. And I was just like, what? What is this? What is going on? Why am I being so heavily affected by this? And so I sat in meditation. I had actually just lost my job. And so I was applying for jobs and really kind of sitting in what's next for me. And so I sat in meditation when this all started coming up. I was like, should I join them? Would that be crazy? Or maybe I need to do my own pilgrimage, and maybe that's what it's really speaking to me for. And what was interesting, I was kind of rolling all around this in my mind, and I did one of your meetups with a journey session, and I got, like, before the drum even started, it was already, I had this huge download, and I was shown, like, I need you're to go be with the monks. And they showed me that all the energy work that I needed to do, and I was going to work, my job was going to be to work with the land and prepare it, and also kind of help clean and clear some of the energy, because what I saw was that they were actually walking through um, kind of like the divide that happened between the North and the South in the Civil War. Like, that never went away. And so what they were doing is walking through that divide to help heal it, so we as a country could really move on. And I was just like, yeah, sign me up. And so after that download, like, there was no more questions in my mind about what was next. And so I just packed up all my stuff and put it in storage, and drove across, and I met them up. I actually met them on December 12th. So the 12/12 portal. And I just showed up. They were in a parking lot at a grocery store, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So I just went up and I asked one of the people running it, I was like, do you guys need a volunteer? And they actually had just lost some of their volunteers, had gone back to Texas. And so they were in need. And they were like, yeah, we'll give you a chance, and we'll try you out till we reach the Alabama border, because they were in Mississippi at the time. And then I made it all. My goal was initially to make it to Washington, D.C. with them, which I did end up doing. And so I traveled with them 2/3 of the trip. So for 2 months, essentially. And it was kind of funny. I left on the 12th of February. So it was almost 2 months exact. It was 2 months exactly.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm curious, and for anyone who doesn't know you, so when you got the download about working on the land, working with the land. What does that look like for you? What does that mean?
I have, I've been doing grid work probably for the last 5 years, and I work with crystals specifically. And so I took a group of crystals with me. I charged them before I left I always charge my crystals with love. That's my intention, is to help put love back into the land. And so I had crystals that I took with me, and then I use a lot of imagination as well in my land work. And so as we went along, everywhere we stopped, we kind of leapfrogged them. So they would start walking in the morning, and then we would drive ahead and get to the lunch spot. They'd have lunch, and then we would drive ahead to the night spot. So what I would do is when we arrived, I would put a crystal in the earth, usually with a tree or a bush or something. And then I would actually energetically I used a flame. I use a lot of fire in my land work to help clear and transmute any kind of energy. And then I would open a love portal. And so my intention was that place, when people came to see the monks, that the place was a place of peace and a place of love. So it was almost like a little safe harbor for them, or a safe haven that they could come in and have the experience of that and be able to take that away with them. Because what I saw on the trail with the monks was the level of suffering people had. It was like everybody is suffering, and it was so palpable. And I wanted to be able to provide a service that people could come and take respite from that for a moment, that they could sit in a peaceful, safe place, and that they could take that back with them. And so that's kind of the level of land work that I did. And so I did it for over the 2-month period, I did it everywhere we went. And then it was interesting. Sometimes I was called to do little side quests. And so like one day my GPS took me on this really weird route, and I stopped at a gas station, and I could just feel really bad vibes there. And there was an Indian woman behind the counter, and she almost looked like scared. And there was some men in the back, and they were all just talking angrily and stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay, I just stopped here so I opened a love portal there to help provide relief from people who are just really suffering. And so this happened all the time. Like one time I showed up at a laundromat, and a man had just been murdered the night before. And so they had all the candles and everything. So I ended up doing, I worked a lot with the land, but I also ended up doing a lot of spirit work. So in that case, like I helped his spirit pass that was still stuck in that plane. And we went through a lot of areas that had, slavery was still hadn't been healed, and there was still a lot of spirits left from that stuck in this realm. And so I played my flute at a lot of cemeteries. I said a lot of prayers. I have a group of beings that I work with to help spirits pass if they're ready. So we stayed one night in a train station, and the next morning, one of the volunteers walked me into this back room, and he was like, look at that light. It was flashing, and it wasn't like a regular flash. It was almost like it was doing like a little Morse code.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, he's like, they used to house slaves in the basement here, and then they would ship them off in the trains and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't sleep well that night. So I was like, that is what's going on. And so after everybody left, I took my flute and I went in and I played in the train station. And what was amazing is, like, when I got done, they had these stained glass windows at the top, and all this light just started streaming in, and the whole room just lit up in light. And so I ended up doing I hadn't expected to do so much spirit work, but I did a lot of spirit work to help souls pass that had been just really stuck in suffering.
Wow. Now, did people who were part of the walk, any of the people that you interacted with, did they know you were doing that, or did you keep that hidden?
In the beginning, I kept it pretty hidden and I didn't really say anything. But through time, there were a handful of people. Like some people were just like, "What do you?" Because I would be stop, we'd stop, and I'd be playing my flute in a graveyard, and so that kind of stuff brings up a little bit of attention.
It gets attention. Who's the wacky lady in the graveyard?
Right? And so sometimes people would ask me. If they asked me, I would tell them, and I would be honest about what I was doing. If they didn't, it just was never brought up. And so in the beginning, I was really kind of more quiet and secretive. And then towards the end, I was like, I need to be more open about what it is that I do and how I experience the world. And so I started sharing that a little bit more with people and getting braver about, well, this is what I do and this is what I see. And um,
Hmm. Did you get any bad reactions to that?
I didn't actually.
Mm-hmm. At least
I
not
think
to your face,
people,
so that's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's good. That
and
nothing
I think
direct.
it was really interesting because some people, it gave them an opportunity to share, like, oh, I had this really, like, people would start telling me their experiences.
Hmm.
Well, I had this thing happen to me one time. And so that gave them the opportunity to share something that was, unusual and that they wouldn't speak about with anybody else. But then it helped, and then I could help validate that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was a real experience. And you weren't crazy or imagining things, that does happen.
Well, that in itself is creating peace within
Yep.
people, right? Because when people think they're weird or crazy because they were having these experiences, or even that they've had one, that lingers and creates self doubt. So that in
Yep.
itself is an important part.
And I would have
Okay.
people and from a ministry standpoint as well, like I didn't actually actively look for people, but they definitely had a way of finding me.
Hmm.
And so at every stop, I would just be available. It's usually actually at the end when I was picking up garbage, people would be drawn into me and they needed ministering to. They needed to just be seen and heard. I don't normally hug, but I gave out a lot of hugs and I
Oh,
cried a lot with people.
wow.
And so there was kind of just a soul tending that I had the opportunity to do on this trip as well.
Hmm. Wow. Okay, so yeah, on the trip, I'm curious about, in addition to what you just mentioned, either something maybe around the energy or the perceived something around the monks, like how the monks created a space just by their presence. Um, but from your perspective, like what are a couple things that you noticed either in how they handled something that impressed you or was different than what you normally would expect, or maybe just how they were, or how the people with them, something around that, because it was interesting watching it from social media.
Yeah.
And a number of times tears came to my eyes looking at different things and interactions of moments. So what stands out for you?
I feel like what you saw on social media and how they were was the same. Like we
Mm.
don't get that very often. Usually it's a persona or someone's attempting to pretend to be something. And I spent 2 months like really watching them and listening to his talks, and the schedule was grueling. Like what they went through, like the volunteers get up at 3:30 in the morning. Breakfast, the monks get up at 4 to meditate. They have breakfast by 5 and they were on the road by 6.
Mm.
And then they would go all day, and then they were open to the public till usually 9 p.m. And then it was like they'd probably be up for another hour or so, then go to sleep and then get back up and start all over again in the morning. So that the schedule was really grueling and physically and mentally demanding. And they did not miss a beat. Like I was like, because I would lose it all the time, crying in my van because it's so hard. And I never saw him, especially like the lead monk, I never saw him be anything but loving and compassionate and peaceful, no matter the circumstance. And they had in it anywhere from people who just loved them to, they did experience people who were haters and everything else. And we had like this one guy that followed us for the whole time. He was there almost 6 weeks. And so he would get on his loudspeaker and he would just be like, Shane, the monks are going to hell. Like just really kind of hateful speech and loud and disruptive. And the lead monk, I actually got really lucky. I was standing there nearby and the lead monk came and offered him up a rose. It's a video that I did. Mm. And I think about that still sometimes, like, would I be able to have the courage to go up to my hater and just be love? And it was genuine. It wasn't fake. It wasn't for show or any of that. Like he genuinely handed the guy a rose, was pure, just beaming pure love at him.
What'd the guy do?
Interestingly enough, he backed away and wouldn't take the rose. Oh. And that was, so for me, I was like, he was carrying so much shame that when you shine the light on that, like, you can't take it. You back away. You're like, no. Mm-hmm. So it was really I learned a lot from a social perspective and trying to understand people, because I was really wanting to understand what it was about him that he would do this. And in that moment I was like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. And so I can take that and then I can help understand other people when they're in that level of suffering, and how do you reach people in their hearts? Because that's really my personal goal. And I really felt like that's what they did, is that he just reached, it was heart to heart. And there was no show. He was just simply a man walking, as all the monks were. And they were all just humble and kind and loving. I had one day, I was having a tough day. It was New Year's Day. And as the monks were walking by me, one had like a dozen roses, and he stopped and he handed me those roses. And he just beamed at me and he said, Happy New Year. And he gave me such a dose of love that I felt that for days. Like I carried that with me for days, and it helped lift me and carry me through kind of the difficulty that I was going through. And so I was just really impressed by the monks. Like, they were what they said they were. They were real. And I saw it every day in them, and they did not change a beat. And at the end, the lead monk, his name is Panakara. I was literally, I had the opportunity to get my photo with him just as he was about, like, everything was done. They're about to load up onto the bus and leave. And when I looked in his eyes, there was nothing but love. Like, nothing but love. And after 3 months of all that they went through, and that was no small task what they did. He was nothing but love.
Not at all. That was immense.
Yeah.
And I think that the level of prayers for them during the snowstorm was probably the most, I could feel that, like, right, that, how hard that is. Is there something that you remember about that? How were you during that? That looked pretty, very, very intense.
It actually ended up not being near as bad. And it was kind of funny because the storm was coming, and I was sitting with, like, oh my God, what do I do? because I had this little mantra that I would do every day, and I would say it all day throughout the day. And it was give them space and keep them safe, keep them warm and dry, or I will cry. And so that was my mantra, because I was like, we just need good weather and good health, right? This is hard enough. We don't need to freeze.
Yes.
And one of your feeds just randomly came across, and you were talking about spirits, like spirit of sickness and spirit of storms and things like
That's
that.
hilarious. Really? All right.
And so, like, I used my journey skills, and I was like, oh, duh, I can go talk to the storm. So
Oh,
I got out my drumming recording, and I went into journey space, and I talked to the storm, and I said, look, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. This is already really hard. Could you please,
just go a different path. Yeah.
either just
Just a
fizzle
little
out,
ways. Yeah,
or,
just a little different.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. So one could think that that direct appeal may have nudged it one way or another. So it wasn't as bad as it could be.
yep. And so it ended up not being like, we still got some sleet and cold, and it was still cold, but it wasn't near because it had predicted to be like 3 inches of ice,
Yeah.
like an ice storm.
Hmm.
And like power lines were going to go to, everybody was like cleaning out the stores. And we got barely anything. And
Wow,
then what was
Sky, that's great.
yeah, at the time I was like, I didn't get what I wanted, but because I
What
wanted
didn't you?
none.
You wanted
But
none. Oh, well,
yeah,
just enough.
but then
Just
I was
enough.
like, it was a good lesson for me, because I was like, well, I asked, and that is all I can do.
Mm-hmm.
The rest I don't have any control over, and I just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. And
And
it
then
could have been way worse.
it
Could have
could have
been a
been
bomb
way worse.
cyclone or one of those things that are
Yep.
hitting the Northeast now.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that is fascinating. I had no idea really that my little spirits have had any input in that. That's great. Well, the
Yep.
algorithms of the social media came through then.
They did, because I would not have thought, it's kind of funny, like I should have thought to do that, but I
In
hadn't.
the moment, it's hard to think of things sometimes. So
Yep.
good, and that's why the living world brings us prompts and say, "Oh yeah, of course." Uh
Yep.
huh.
So it
Okay.
was, and then what was interesting is when the ice did go through, they piled it up on the side of the roads, because like when I joined, it was really small, and it just kept snowballing. And so it got to the point where like people were lining the roads like through the whole day.
Hmm.
And so they weren't getting any kind of break from the public at all. And with the ice storm that came, they piled up all the ice and the snow up alongside the roads. And so people couldn't park anymore. And it was a lot harder to stand. And so it actually gave them a respite a
Yeah,
little
for
bit.
and when they probably needed that extra energy to get through it themselves, and they could have some quiet.
Yep. So it was
That's
I was
good.
like, oh, that kind of worked out pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, just enough. That's good.
It was just enough.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Um,
so, and
hmm.
even unintended consequences, like, oh, they finally kind of get a break a little bit from the public.
Especially probably during the weather-wise, the most difficult part,
Yep.
which took all their focus,
Yep.
rather than being distracted in a wonderful way or something by people. Um, okay, so then the closing of it, like what were the some of the feelings that you noticed or felt, or because it was a big thing. I mean, and then it was done. So kind of that, like, whoa, it's arrival, right? We've
Yep.
made it, and then the close, and then the dispersal, and everyone going back to their lives or whatever, including the monks. And so, yeah, so anything in that phase that you want to mention?
The towards the end, I was getting pretty tired, and it got really big, and so there there were different it was kind of interesting as I went along. You kept having to adapt, 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 adapt. because it kept changing and changing and changing and changing. And, you know, Washington, D.C. was kind of a hard place to be. And so I was, towards the end, I was ready to be done. And and it was kind of funny, like that last day when they walked to the Peace Memorial, to the Lincoln Memorial, like I was having some hard feelings and um, I didn't know how to feel. And so I actually, one of my friends randomly showed up, and I ended up standing right where they walked by us to the memorial. And so I watched them walk by, and then I watched when they were up at the front. There was something about that our little peace flag. They had this little white flag with a dove on it that they carried literally the whole trip. One little monk had it in his thing. It went everywhere with them.
Hmm.
And seeing our little white flag up there, it was like this tiny little square because the memorial was so huge behind it, but that flag waving just crushed me,
Hmm.
and I just started sobbing. And it was like the end of a marathon, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been in a marathon. We were running and running and running and running, and finally we finished, hit the finish line.
Hmm.
And the relief and all the emotions that come with that. I was just sobbing. I was in such relief, and I was so proud to, like,
I bet.
what that was. It was so hard at moments, and you know that was not an easy task what they did.
Mm-mm. No.
And
No.
even on the backside of that, for me, like that wasn't it, it wasn't an easy journey for me either, but I was so proud of it. Like every day we just, no matter what, we showed up. Like no matter what, we showed up,
Hmm.
and we reached the finish line. We reached our goal, and just it was so powerful for me. And I was so proud, and I was proud of them. I was so proud of the monks and what they did and the beauty of it. Like just this simple little white flag waving and all this enormousness.
Hmm.
It really put a lot of things in perspective. And then when I saw was, you know, the Capitol was on the other end, and people, what I saw were turning their backs to hate and literally
Yes.
running to peace. Like they were rushing
Hmm.
to the monks
Hmm.
to be part of that. Like, and I just found that so powerful. I was like, oh, they're turning their backs on hate and they're running towards peace.
Hmm.
And it really gave me a lot of hope. I'm like, because everything in our world is so distorted, and it looks like it's all bad, it's all falling apart. But there are people in this world that are choosing another route. They're choosing peace. They're choosing love, and that will be carried forward. And I think that will be their legacy is, you know, people showed up with a lot of suffering, but they left with a lot of peace.
Which does linger and last.
Yes.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it was so powerful to watch it from afar, of these parallel realities going on at the same time, the hatred of ice and the cruelty and all that going that way, and then here are these monks and all the growing numbers of people in the South,
Mm-hmm.
which it does matter, you know. I mean, that a
Yes.
very strategic, wow, that's very powerful. And then here are these monks walking, and everyone coming to where they show up, and they don't they don't refer to what's going on. I mean, they just are doing their thing. And the power of that, there was no direct confrontation. It was this parallel action that, and all the people that it drew in was so significant, just even from my perspective of watching it every day, as I scroll, right? And it got me to scroll
Mm-hmm.
more, because, and then there were more and more accounts that showed perspectives of it, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, powerful. And I'm proud that you listened to the download and that you did it and that you finished. You finished with them. You didn't bail.
It didn't.
That's big. That's a big deal. A lot, probably 8 out of 10 people might have said, "Okay, good enough," you know. But But
There
you,
were times I went, it was interesting. I went through periods where I really did want to quit. Like
yeah,
it
oh
was
yeah, of
so
course.
hard.
Of course. Yes, that's part of it. And
And
not quitting.
I
Yeah.
just kept showing up every day. I
Hmm.
just be like, hey, I gotta put my big girl panties on.
Yeah. Wow. As we're crying. Yeah.
Cry while I'm doing it, but I'm still doing it.
Doing it. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Is there something you want to leave us with about some what comes to mind as the last bit of share for this little recap? What do you
I
want to leave with
think
us?
what they did was needed. I think it reminds me of how important timing is.
Hmm.
Like maybe at a different time, it may not have been as potent, but the timing of it, and it was so needed that the divine timing part, I think, is just, and all they did was walk. That's all he did. He got up every day and just walked. And what swirled around him in that process, it was really reminding me of, because we think, oh, we're going to do these things and this is going to be what happens, but we don't know. Like he had no idea that this would become like it did. All he
Mm-hmm.
was doing, he's like, I'm just going to walk. And I'm going to take that forward with me too. Like I'm just going to walk, and the rest is inconsequential. The important part is to show up and take that first step every day.
Definitely. And that brings me full circle around to there was one time I was looking through my computer for a picture or something, and I found a graphic of you with your bowl at I can't remember what mountain, and it had Earthwalker on it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I thought, well, this is interesting. Another version of Earthwalker energy for you, Sky.
Yeah, something
Hmm.
about the walking.
Yeah, something about it. Yeah. Well, okay. So, how can someone find you if they're curious about who you are? What is it? Sacred Sounds, plural, or
Secret sounds. Yep, plural.
alchemy?
Alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Okay.
on TikTok and YouTube
Mm-hmm.
and Instagram.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sky, and thanks for saying yes to talking to me about it because yeah, I definitely wanted to get it in the hindsight, but not the far distant from your experience. So I look forward to see what the walking comes next of whatever form.
Thank you.